are you? I am. That's right. Hold those words. Thank you for that. Well, you know, I get out myself all riled up with music, and then why don't we all just take a deep, cooling, cleansing breath right now. Deep breath. Let it out. If you have bad breath, just close your mouth and let it out your nostrils. Thank you. And there's a beautiful hide. Is that what that hide that is under? A buffalo. I couldn't see it from back there. A beautiful buffalo hide under there. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do this. There's so many of us here that have wonderful things to share, and I feel really blessed to take us through this centering. Relaxing your toes, your jaw. And releasing into a beautiful exhale. And allowing your first finger and your thumb to touch. And then allowing that first finger to be welcomed under the thumb, which turns off our main mind turns off our personal mind into the universal mind. Relaxing with your breath.
Be the reason someone smiles today. Be the reason someone feels love. And believe in the goodness in people. We're all equal because we are different. We are one humanity. We are one humanity. One God, many faces. One family, many races. One truth, many traces. One humanity. One heart, many races. One mind, many places. One world, many spaces. One humanity. We are one humanity. We are one humanity. We are one humanity. We are one.
Oh yeah. Words we speak define us. This has been an interesting one for me. I've always been interested when somebody misunderstands something that I say. I immediately go into, holy crap, what did I say? You know, what did I actually say that made them hear this? I never think, well, they're just wrong. You know, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's an insecurity, maybe it's just because I'm nice and I'm assuming that they're misunderstanding me when really it's me. But I just always have to stop and think about that. Words have always been important. I'm telling you, since first grade, we used to have these wonderful contests on who could spell correctly and write the most words. I always won. I did. Mrs. Woods was my first grade teacher in Kearny, Arizona. We didn't even have a school at that time. It was just a house because Kearny had just been established as a sub-community, a bedroom community to Hayden and Ray, which were the copper towns. So I always won that, and I realized really early that they were important to me. And I was so disgusted by the end of that first day. And I went home and I told my parents, I'm not going back there. And my mom said, why not? I said, I didn't learn how to read. You know, back then we didn't teach kids to read at 2, you know, or 3 like we do now. So I've always been on this thing with words and their meanings and how to say things better. And Sometimes I'm really successful, other times not so much. But over the years, I have realized that I am, as Dr. Renee Brooks has said, I am a woman of power. She says I'm a black woman of power. I can't say that. So I'm just a woman of power, and I'm a red-headed woman of power. Okay, part of that's right. Yeah, okay. So I've worked a long time and worked really hard at being powerful, at claiming my own power. You know, this could explain why I had no trouble being a tomboy. I knew my power. I didn't have to, back in the 50s, and I'm just talking about 50s and our stereotypes in society at the time, we were taught, Ozzie and Harriet, you know, father knows best. I mean, there's a title right there, right? That's a whole other message. However, what is it that my big fat Greek wedding?
The house. Let me tell you something, Tula. The man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And she can turn the head any way she wants.
But my dad taught me I can do anything. He taught me how to replace spark plugs. He taught me how to change a tire, how to change the oil in the car, how to replace, you know, we didn't have air conditioner back then, how to replace the pads in the swamp cooler. So he taught me I could do anything in life. So I marry somebody who supports this role in that he didn't want to work. So that was a good thing I was working. So I got tired of that role pretty quickly. And then I went in the military at a time that was not particularly female friendly. And then, to top it off with, I was in a career field that was definitely not female friendly, because I was an electronic technician. I happened to have excellent math skills. I happened to be able to grasp the concept of the fundamentals of electronics, electricity, not electricity so much as we learned with Dito, but electronics. And this was apparently a threat to men. But you know what my response was? Kiss my ass. That was just my response. That's just the way I was. So I learned to be as hard and as angry and as aggressive as they did. So fast forward a few years, okay, 20 years, and I meet somebody like Arvel, who's a really nice balance of male and female. And now I'm trying to be this nice, compliant, sweet, gentle woman. And then his best friend says, oh, don't worry, after you're married, she'll come into her feminine power. What? So he tells me this, and it just annoyed the crap out of me to hear one of his friends, actually it was a female friend, say that, oh, don't worry, she'll grow into her feminine power. So that was another turning point. And since we've been married, I have been in this support role of Arvel's for a long time. He was the entertainer. I did everything else. And then finally I started playing with him on stage. And there is nothing more powerful than touching people's lives with music, or being on stage and somehow, where you've got their attention. They're not going anywhere. They are listening to what you're saying and to what you're doing. And I had the honor of playing with somebody like Arvel, who is, in my estimation, one of the most talented and soul-inspired musicians I have ever known. I've known really few. I mean, I've heard many of them, but I've known few. And he's one of them. So that was another turning point in my power. Then I started talking. And now you can't shut me up. So we decide we're going to do this thing, and I start giving my 2 cents worth every once in a while, and I like it. I like it. Thank you. I have a lot to say, and that's what I've realized. I've really kept myself quiet for a long time. And I don't want to be that person. I want to feel that power and know that I can help somebody. and be powerful enough to know when I need help. That was another big one for me. I couldn't admit, because of this growing up in the military, it was 8 years of it. I couldn't admit that I needed help, because then that would have been to men, in my perception, not being told, to men as a weakness. How can you be weak and be in the military? So I learned really quickly, you just don't ask for help, you just suck it up and do it.
Yep.
And better or worse, you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Sylvia knows, Major Sylvia knows. You just pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get over it.
That's right.
So that has been another power point for me. And I like that too, because now that we're settled in Cottonwood, after how many years on the road? 14 years, literally, with no bricks and mortar home, living on the road in a motorhome, meeting people for 20 minutes at a time. How do you develop relationship that way? You don't. But meeting people and now getting to know these beautiful souls like Johanna and Natalie and Susan and Linda and Bijou and Cookie and White Wolf. I mean, there's everybody in this room. Judith, Bobby, Celeste, everybody that I know, Nanda. This is my PowerPoint now. I could go to any one of them and say, my life sucks, tell me what to do. And they'd tell me, or they'd at least lead me in the right direction. So this is what I think I've been working for a long time. But I kind of got off on that. I started stream of consciousness here. What I wanted to talk about was, have you ever known those people that you know don't feel their power? They're the ones that are really critical all the time and judgmental. Have you ever, you know a few people like that? I do, and I used to be like that too. Talk about military, please. So, one of the identified areas in my life is that I just wasn't feminine enough. That was a big thing for me. This is one reason I grew my hair long, because I had really short hair all my life, and I tied that somehow in with my not feeling feminine. So there's been a lot of transition. But what this has done is that it's allowed me to realize that in being in my power is that I don't have to fix anyone. You don't have to fix anyone. You can be there for them, you can hold space for them, you can love them, you can send them positive energy. All those things are important. I started working with a lady in Sedona. She's an NLP, a therapist, coach. She owns a business up there. And I'm helping her doing marketing. I'm helping her write all of her copy work. Well, she has this way of, I think she does it subconsciously, that's why she's so good at it, of helping me realize where I am on the continuum in any day, on any subject, in any context they call it. Whether it's relationship, whether it's work, whether it's community, whatever it is, she can bring that out in me and allow me to look at it. And I find I am reactive rather than proactive. I operate by deletion, and none of these are good or bad. They just are, and it's how I model the world. It's how I deal with overstimulation. I start deleting stuff. It's just like my email box, my inbox. I don't even look at stuff. I just start deleting. Because there's so much. So that's how I deal with life. But there are all these other ways that she has allowed me to do that. And her words are so kind and unobtrusive that before I know it, I feel so good knowing that I am just exactly the way I need to be. I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. And who does that define? It doesn't define me. I've already defined myself. It defines her. That's the kind of person she is. She's helping people uplift each other. I love that about her. I love working with her. I am so appreciative of the universe for crossing our paths. And she's, good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll keep working together for a long time. I'm hoping I can take one of her classes. We'll see. But a couple of months ago, I was in line at the rec center. I was waiting to scan my card to get into the, to get into play pickleball. I know, go ahead and laugh. Don't judge. But I hear these two ladies in front of me, and the first one says, this first lady says, I wonder if old fat Shamu's here today. And the other lady says, looks around, and I could see her kind of craning her neck. Yeah, there she is on the electrical machine, on the elliptical machine. And I was stunned. I thought, here's these two beautiful women in their 30s, and this is the best thing they can come up with to say about somebody? Somebody who's obviously working hard to make life changes, whatever they are for her. Maybe she just wants to feel good. Maybe she likes the way she looks. That's the way she ought to look then. But maybe she wants to feel better, have more energy. So after they swiped their membership cards, and I went on in, I swiped mine, and they're still chuckling, and I was just completely dumbfounded. I couldn't process what they were saying, that people would say such ugly things today, and I don't hear those things very often. This is the thing. I usually hear really sweet, kind things. So first I had to go into my brain, because here we go again. I had to figure out what was in me that allowed me to hear that. What was I attracting out of them to hear those ugly, horrible words? So that went aside, and it didn't say anything about the lady on the elliptical machine, but it told me a lot about the two women. And then as I'm thinking that through, I think, well, here I am judging them, right? Yeah, and that's not appropriate either, and I don't want to be that person. So I got myself back out. I call it my macro view, or some people now they call it the 30,000-foot view. I got my macro view on, and I thought, I don't know what's going on with those women to make them feel that way, to make them say those ugly things. And it's not for me to know. All I got to know is that they have to do what they have to do. That's part of their spiritual development. Is someday they'll look back and say, geez, what a horrible bitch I was. But I'm okay now because I learned from it. So then I decided I wasn't going to say anything to them, because that would just exacerbate a whole situation at that moment in the rec center. And I just decided I was going to do something though. So I took, if you've been to the rec center, you take a quick left and you go into the pickleball courts, or you can go all the way around the track and come in front of the elliptical machines. So I go trooping around the track, come up in front of the elliptical machines, and I give her my biggest warm I love you smile. Don't say a word, just my biggest warm I love you smile. And she just glowed. And then she got back to the badass work she was on. That's my girl. I love that. So that was just something recent I did. But then I realized, well, I can't. How do you change somebody from judging? It's not by judging them. Then you've got this whole circuitous thing going on, which isn't right either. So I have to let people find their own way of living their life and dealing with their world, because I did the same thing. Occasionally I still do little bits of it, but nothing to that degree anymore. It doesn't feel good, I don't like it, I don't like me when I do it. So I can turn that around now really quickly. But for some reason, we really love to judge other people. So when I pull myself into the macro view, these are some of the words that I've come around to. Oh crap. Before you assume, learn the facts. Before you judge, understand why. Before you hurt someone, feel. And before you speak, think. The words matter. And it's important to think those things through, if you can, before you say anything ugly. We usually make those judgments about others in areas of our life that we don't like about ourselves. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever really thought that through? I have. I can look back at things I've said, things I've done that directly related to something I did not like about myself. But I couldn't change, if I could say, I'm sorry for saying that, but the words are already out there. The deed is already out there. You can't change that, but you can change yourself, because that changes the future now. Once you change yourself, you can forge a new direction to help somebody else not do the same thing, which is what I want to do. I don't want people to feel as bad as I felt. I'm the worst critic of myself. I always have been. I think it's the nature of life. I think that's how we keep ourselves in check. So, every once in a while, you go to those places and you're thinking, well, for example, God, why can't that mother control those unruly kids? They're running through the store like animals. Well, here's the translation. I don't feel great about my abilities as a mother, and it makes me feel a little better to judge a woman who appears to be struggling in her duties more than I am. Right? Yeah. I mean, if we're going to be honest here, here's another one. This woman thinks that she's all that because she drives a fancy car and has so much money. It's disgusting. Translation. I wish I had as much money as she did, and by judging her as a villain, it makes me feel a little better about being broke. Or, look at that dude smiling all the time. Yeah, he's so smug, he's so fake and annoying. And what's that translation? I wish I was happy enough to smile all the time, but since I'm not, I'm going to judge this guy as a phony and a fraud. Those things are those are crazy, aren't they? And everybody has morals around judgments. Some are in sync with what we believe ourselves, and some aren't. But they don't have to be, because we all have our own. Even people within the same community, within the same religious cloistered sect, within a monastery, have different morals. You can call them the same. You can say, oh yeah, we all do this, but nobody all does anything. That's why we're so unique. And moral judgments are really tough, though. Judgments, by definition, are opinions that determine a conclusion. An opinion, not even anything based in fact. Look at the Supreme Court. I rest my case. All they do is hand down opinions. Right? I mean, they make decisions on things. Most of their opinions are based on things they don't want to address, like Gore v. Bush. They don't want to address things like that because that's kind of a no-win situation. So they'll send that back down to the lower courts, and then they'll give their opinion as to why they're not going to do that. It's a freaking opinion. God. That's the opinion of this court, blah, blah, blah. Interpretation? Yeah, we're not getting in the middle of this. And morals are really ambiguous at best. They're defined as a person's standard of behavior or beliefs concerning what is and what is not acceptable for them to do. Even those within the same religion, as I said, even those within the same religious cloistered sect have different standards of behavior and morals. So who gets to decide what's right? Anybody want to volunteer? No, I didn't think so. Anybody but me. I mean, I used to say, and it's not popular, but it's the way I felt and it's the way I was learning at the time, that even people as despicable as we judge them, people like Hitler, all these other people that we feel are not appropriate, they believe they're doing the best thing for their people. How do you argue that? How do you convince them otherwise? You don't. That's not our job. So in the non-judgment of our community, we hold people up to a higher standard. And it doesn't matter what that standard is, just a higher one, to uplift them. Let them feel better about life. Let them feel better about being here. Make them happy. You know, that's what I do. Every time I want to feel good, I just put this song on. The worst part about judging others is that it comes back to us 3 times. That's what I believe. I believe in the reed of 3, which is anything you put out there, good or bad, comes back to you 3 times. So I don't want anything bad coming back to me 3 times. I've already done that. I've already had 3 husbands before Arvel, so I'd say I've already paid that penance. That's okay, he knows. And we got to talking about, about the center and the way we deal with things here in the center. And she's like, well, what do you talk about? I said, well, we talk about everything because I believe everybody has their path to the divine. And it's up to them to find out what it is, through trial and error, whatever that might be. We're here to support them in their choices and decisions. If they ask for help, we're here for them. I said, I don't feel like it's my job, to judge them. And she said, I got to quote this because it's been burned in my brain. Let's see. Well, I do feel like it's my duty to judge people, to point out what they're doing wrong and what they can do to get right with the Lord. I was floored. I was floored. Because I couldn't even process that statement either. And this is what I do when I hear things that it's like my brain starts short-circuiting and you go, what? What did you just say? So, I was really having a lot of inner conflict with that because I didn't want to judge her. I go through this whole thing. I know I overthink a lot of things. But this is what I do, and this is some things I'm asking you to do as well. Nothing I'm not doing myself. Just think about what you're saying. Think about the judgments. So I moved into the macro position with her. I had to, because it's somebody that's going to be in my life for a long time. And I saw that the way she lives her beliefs and the way she lives her life is belief that, number 1, divorce is sin. And number 2, the spanking, jerking, and berating a child is how she perceives God and interprets the Bible in order to make the child know right from wrong. So well. I realized, I understood in this macro view that it's her way to justify staying in an abusive and toxic relationship in her marriage. She is raising a child that's not her own, it's her blood, but not her own, at 70 years old. And it's her way of dealing with this situation that she is now in. It's not a good situation, but it's her way of justifying it through her beliefs that what she's doing is the right thing. So I'm not going to tell her she's wrong. She's just not wrong based on her own beliefs. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. These are words, the judgment words we could use matter. So none of us that come to see you well are here because we believe there's only one way to anything, are we? I mean, we're a bunch of spiritual misfits. We are. We all know it. That's okay. We can call it what it is. We don't fit into any square box. We bring in Native American practice, Hindu spirituality, pagan rituals, Christian ideas, and anything that uplifts us because they come from everywhere. As a community, we can support others to be their best self. And if that best self includes hitting rock bottom with drugs, self-abuse, joining a commune, shaving their head, staying in toxic relationship, then sometimes the path to become our very best is a circuitous route. And we don't just need to judge their route, but if their paths cross and we find ourselves somewhere along their route, we can be there just in case there is something we can do for them if they ask. I'm not naive about this judgment stuff. I mean, our decision-making mechanism of the brain is about judgments, about discernment, making decisions about things. You make decisions because you have judgments about whether I like that or don't like that, or that's not right for me, that's wrong for me. So that's a normal thing. So I don't think it's possible to have a life where we never judge anyone ever. And I think it's a really admirable goal. But I believe it's more realistic to offer solutions to give a try. That we can give a try. So next time you're feeling the urge to be a little judgy, stay curious. Stay curious and stay out of judgment. Stay curious. It keeps us open to that possibility that there's something behind the situation that we don't know about. We don't know what's going on, and it's not ours to know. Let that one go. Judgment shuts us down and keeps us from understanding the full situation. If we're being honest, most judgments about people are based on incomplete information. Right? Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind, always. Always. This is what I really want you to do, though. This is what the thing I want you to remember. I believe that goodness is our natural state. I believe happiness is our natural state. Anything we do to the contrary of that gets us out of those two states. So if we just don't do those things that make yourself miserable, and you know what they are, don't do them. Be your natural happy self. Be your natural good self. This is what I see in all of you. I know you all look around and you see the same thing. You see the beautiful smile, those beautiful eyes that just got fixed. The beautiful outfit, the beautiful faces. How can you be happy and not see the goodness in everybody else? Just like our words say in our song. So we can become better people, parents, children, neighbors, community members, and find more ways to feel our own power. And to know that wherever you are what? The center of universal light. So, there you go. Our affirmation of abundance. First, if you would take your gift, your love offering, place it in your right hand, hold it to your breast, your chest, your heart chakra. And together let's say, I dwell in the midst of infinite abundance. The resources of the universe are my infinite sources. I give freely and fearlessly into life, and life gives back to me infinite abundance. For this I am eternally grateful, and I let it be so. Aho.
We're looking on the coming down that railroad track.